Stepping into Eden, yeah, brother. Stepping into Eden, yeah, brother. No more trouble in my body or my mind. Gonna live like a king on whatever I find. Eat all the fruit and throw away the rind. Yeah, brother.
よし、松だ。
Greetings and welcome to the very hot north.
And I, Shrumkov, am going to break into the session already, so I can tell you what this is all about. The title of this first part of a much longer teaching is Welcome to Millennium. Yes, welcome to Millennium. That 1,000-year reign of Messiah, prophesied from way back when, yet also way back when, dated to a set time it start by early Nazarenes. Much evidence for them setting date on this. We have to realize, though, the day of Yahweh is not same as end day. Two very different things. If we can get that straight in our mind, then we can understand that our forebears of first century Nazarene, in hidden writing, one you cannot find that was hidden away by certain factors, tells us exactly the time that a particular apostle was living in, and how that related to time of millennium start, and also to time of new world, he say. That apostle is Barnabas. Barnabas from Cyprus, he traveled with Paul for a while. He go to Rome, he discover Clement. He bring Clement back. He serve as a messenger to Yaakov, one of the 120. He survived the Jewish war, and he write about it. And in his writing about it, he tells what the Nazarenes believe concerning when millennium start. I believe him. This is good news for us today. It's not like all that bad news we're hearing everywhere else. Nuclear bomb exploding, big mountain fall in Lake Erie, devil loose in Buffalo, New York, and star falling everywhere. Well, that was in a different time. We passed that now, thank Yahweh. We got something better to look forward to. And when Brother Snyder explains to you why all these other teachings about great tribulation and going to prison house and being made to sacrifice to one world Antichrist is nothing we have to worry about. And as I find, audience tonight is very much in favor of this interpretation, I tell you. And they're smart people. They're not dummy that follow anybody. They're not crackpot, like Chicken Little who thinks sky is falling. No, they're rational people. They know that when Yahweh does something on earth, he does something that's logical, reasonable, within the laws of physics, and also within the laws of Torah. Why do we kill the murderer and make two murders? That not make sense. I learned that from Ptolemy on show last week. That there are many that want to murder your soul and make you captive to false doctrine. Yahweh is logical, reasonable in his Messiah, his genius, able to speak Aramaic, Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, and that is only the beginning, because he is king. He is king of the world, and he is manifesting his presence even now. So, my friend, welcome to Millennium.
My point of view is primarily that Daniel and Revelation, as you already know, have, in the most part, or in some cases all parts, fulfilled. I feel strongly I can prove to anybody that's pliable enough to listen that Daniel, in its entirety, and Revelation, up to a certain point, is completely fulfilled. That point in Revelation is not arbitrary, but there is information that is contemporaneous with Revelation that you have to have in order to interpret or to find the differing line between what has been fulfilled and what is in the future. It's just not in some unknown future, but an exact future, an exactly dated future. And that other piece of literature that you must have is the Epistle of Barnabas. You might remember that in the Sinaitic New Testament, the Codex Sinaiticus, the oldest complete New Testament in existence, there is Revelation, the 27th book, and then the 28th book is Epistle of Barnabas. They go together. The 29th book, The Shepherd of Hermas, another prophetic apocalyptic work. And finally, the last one on there is the Didache. But I must say something about Revelation, by the way. It's not a prophecy. It is an apocalypse. Same with Daniel. They're two different literary styles. They're two different literary agents. Whereas a prophecy speaks of things in the future, an apocalypse speaks of things in the present. In an apocalypse, there is almost always a land-shaking, dynamic cataclysm of some type, and there's always a narrator, and there's always an angelic or other type of messenger guide that takes one through. Another example is the book of First Enoch and Second Enoch. They are guided apocalypses. Enoch also purports to tell the future, and in some respects it does, but there are historical markers in there where you can say, well, yes, this happened, or this was happening at the time, because here is a word or a phrase or a place that is named that we can date. Like, for instance, in Enoch, there's Parthia. We can't date it, that part of Enoch earlier than 300 BC because there wasn't a Parthia before that. That's just for instance. Same with Revelation. Revelation 17 gives us enough historical information to know exactly, or within 10 years, when it was written. And not only that, but Revelation is the fulfillment of the Olivet prophecy. And the Olivet prophecy gives us 40 years. That is a generation. And it tells us that those that pierced him will be alive to see him. So what that means also then is we have to separate this appearance of Yahshua HaMashiach in Jerusalem in 70 AD from the time of the millennium. We've got to separate the end times from the millennium. They're two different things. They don't go together. And another thing that we learned from Barnabas that is really worth knowing right off the bat, he breaks down salvation history into 7 1,000-year sections. He calls them days. He sets it up on the model of Genesis chapter 1, where certain things happen on certain days. So from the time of Adam until the time of Yahshua the King turning the perfected earth over to his Father, that is the 8th day, the beginning of the 8th day, where Barnabas says this is a new world. We've got a 7,000-year segment here. Barnabas makes it perfectly clear where they are in that segment at that time. He implies that Yahshua came to be between light and life in the context of these 7,000-year days. Light came on the 4th day. Life came on the 5th day. So he's got Yahshua coming at the juncture of the 4th and 5th day. And if our chronologers are correct, that have been able to use the scripture in order to get back to the date, whereas Adam, whether he be real or not, came out of the garden and dwelt with inferior men to be about 4,000 BC. Usher's chronology, for instance, 4004 BC. Most of them follow that pretty closely. If that's the case, then we've got 2 days that are called the latter days. The latter days are the 5th and 6th days. When we look at prophecy from the Hebrew prophets, some will say in the latter days. That would be from the years 1 AD to 2001 AD on our calendar. And then the last day is the 7th day, which we equate with the millennium in Revelation, 20? Revelation 20. right? So through Barnabas, we have a specific time for this to happen. And there are specific things that we glean from Matthew's Olivet Discourse that are not in Mark that have to do with the times past the temple destruction. We find those prophetic words from apostolic sources that post-date the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, and what they're writing about can't be prophetic in regards to 70 AD or the revelation that is being fulfilled from 66 to 73. They can't be in that context. They're in the context of a later time. And Barnabas comes right out to say, and then there was the 8th day and a new world. So there is my perspective, and I believe Barnabas is very indicative of the belief of the earliest apostolic believers. I believe that letter is genuine. It's got every mark of a genuine article. It was in the earliest group of chosen books for the New Testament, not chosen by Rome. This is before that. So we have an authentic witness who is explaining to new converts, who he calls children, some of the beliefs of the earliest Nazarene apostles that he has carried over and he's still alive to tell about. And there are a number of those concepts that he explains, including a lot of Torah. So here's what he writes is indicative of the believers of the Nazarenes at that time. We have to also separate the day of Yahweh from the millennium. Those are two different things. They're not related. My understanding is the day of Yahweh came and went. Why? Because the first revolt of the Jews against Roman authority, the catalyst for that is the death of Yaakov HaZadik. Not only does Josephus say that it was the catalyst. After Yaakov was stoned, the whole of Israel rose up in protest against that death, against the religious leaders. And also the Old Testament prophecies are fulfilled to the letter in the Jewish war, as are the eyewitness accounts of Josephus, fulfilled to the letter, almost as though they knew each other. And they're both speaking from the perspective of Yerushalayim. They're both there. The idea of millennium, it's used primarily in Revelation 20, of course. And the word is kilia. It's not a word. Kilia is like 666 in Revelation 13. 3 Greek letters that stand for a number, 666. Same way with Kilia in Revelation. It just happens to be pronounced that way. But the letters there, which are a Ki and a Lambda, come up to 1,000. We can pronounce that Kilia. So when we talk about Kiliism, Chiliism, Kiliism, we're talking about somebody that's millennial and believes in a literal 1,000-year millennium.
It is at this point Brother Snyder reads through and interprets the scripture from Revelation 20 and 21. We skip that for time's sake, but there are a couple of special notes there, and that is that Revelation 25, the first half of 5th verse's interpolation, it needs to be taken out.
The word resurrection is anastasis. It means upstanding or standing up. They take the liberty of translating that resurrection of the dead for our sake. Over in Revelation, where you see earth, that's a mistranslation based on Elizabethan English. The word should be land. The word is gay. Or you might have heard of the goddess that's worshipped a lot these days, Gaia. Okay, it's not earth, it's land, especially in this context. Seals, trumpets, and bowls are all the same thing. You match them up, they all happen at the same time. John recapitulates his ideas over and over again. And then between them, he puts visions of things that may or may not have anything to do with each other. This is what's happening here. All of a sudden, we have a description of the millennium, and then we've got another description, the white throne judgment. What's important here is I saw the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne, and the scrolls were open, and another scroll was open, which is the scroll of Zoe. and the dead were judged from the things written in the scrolls. Here we go. According to their works. This hails us right back to John chapter 5, 19 through 23, where Yahshua again says, there are going to be those that never die. That's the first class. They're going to be those that are good that died and are worthy of life. That's the second class. The third class is those who are evil, who will have to endure not damnation, as the King James Version says, not condemnation, as the Revised Standard says, but the word is krisis. It means a trial. It is a legal term that the evil will have a trial and they will be judged accordingly. Some of them will be rehabilitated, some will be punished, some will be annihilated. Not everybody goes to hell to burn forever. There isn't such a place anyway in the scriptures. That is something that has been interpolated by people that needed some kind of power over other people. The future of this incoming millennium we're talking about holds a mystery to the commentators of this world. I'm speaking of the one that we're just finishing and going into the new one. Recognizing, my friends, that the Roman calendar, the calendar we use, and the Jewish calendar are all on the same date, or will be here after the fall feasts. That is 6015. The Jewish calendar is missing 240 years. That's explainable, but not now. The millennium referred to now is where Yahshua HaMashiach is to live and reign 1,000 years. It includes various aspects, such as what's called the kingdom, the basileia of Elohim, from Luke 13:28, and also from Acts 3:19, the times of restitution of all things. Paul talks extensively about this. We can't dismiss everything from Paul. Let's not dismiss Romans 8, because it's probably the most important passage in all of his letters, because it talks about one of the reasons why the millennium comes. The earth has to be renewed. Creation is moaning and groaning for the revelation of the Yeladim of Elohim, the children of Elohim. That is supposed to be us who never die but are transformed. You see, we're here to help with the amelioration of the earth, the judgment of evil, and the re-education of those living on earth. Our future does not rest up in the sky. Our future rests here on a renewed, ameliorated, healed earth in the times of the restitution of all things, Acts 3:19. This millennium promises peace. We find that in Isaiah 2:4. They shall beat their swords into plowshares. You know that passage. And health, and the inhabitants shall not say, I am sick. Isaiah 33:24. And happiness, right there in Revelation 21, Elohim will wipe the tears from their eyes. There'll be no more death or sorrow or crying or any more pain. For the former things, the first 6 days are passed away. It promises life. It says in Luke 20, and we believe it to be the millennium, neither can they die anymore. For they are equal with the angels, or the Malachim, and are the Yeladim of Elohim, the same one Paul talks about in Romans 8, being the children of the resurrection. It promises righteous justice, egalitarian justice. He hath appointed a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness by the man whom he hath ordained, whereof he hath given assurance unto all men, in that he hath raised him from the dead. It promises security. They shall sit every one under his vine and his fig, none shall make them afraid. People are afraid today because of these fearmongers, of teachers of Hebrew roots, with every kind of fantastic crackpot ideas, and they're persecuting me about it because I take a historical approach. I'm going to condemn those people because they know better. They know what they're saying can be corrected by history. They just won't, because that means that they would have to go from speculation to reality. But let me tell you, I believe that anything that Yahweh does in the next whenever is going to be rational and reasonable and logical. I don't believe stars are going to fall down and burn all the trees up on the earth, or, as I've heard many times, Florida sinking into the Gulf because there's too many people on it, or Yellowstone Park blowing up and destroying the world. The assurance that we have in these promises is like it says in Micah, in his prediction of that time, for the mouth of Yahweh Tzavaot has spoken it. He's the one we believe. I know that's superstitious in a way, but I think that we have believed him in the past and trusted him, and he's brought forth in our lives many promises and good things that just couldn't have happened any other way. Whether he did it through his agents or whether he or she did it himself, I don't know. But even for me, I'm a skeptical man in my old age and become so left-brained, it's scary. But I can see my history and see where the hand of Yahweh has been in there, and in some cases, bringing me out of something that was impossible to get out of. Elohim keeps his promises. Sometimes, though, his promises take the form of judgments. Other times, they're in the form of blessings. We look at his record, it wasn't very long that humans were on the earth before they became corrupted. I understand two creations. The creation of Homo sapiens and the creation of Homo Uranos. Adam was different genetically. It says that the people that came in the first creation came to be. The man and woman in the second creation were made specially. They're different. Do you think that there's a different genetic code there? I know they're going to find some markers one of these days. Whether we'll ever hear about it or not, I don't know, but they're always talking about the God gene. And somebody recently thought they found the God gene. I don't know, but what they will find is a gene that sets aside the bloodline of Adam through Shem from all the rest, although, today everybody's blood is mingled. So you wonder why that sister of yours becomes an atheist, and when you are a fervent believer, I think not only there's a person's mind to be made up, but I think it's a matter of genetics these days as well, and I always have. That's why I majored in genetics in college, because I wanted to learn about that. Elohim promised Abraham that he and his wife Sarah would have a child. It happened. Seems unbelievable, but it happened. Still, Elohim only dealt with one nation on earth, nation that we know as the tribes of Israel. Notice I said tribes this time. You only have I known of all the families of the earth, coming from the important prophecy of Amos 3:2. But they even became idolaters. He predicted that they would go into captivity, and they did time after time. 2 were on the roof. 1 was taken, 1 was left. 2 are out in the field. 1 is taken, 1 is left. You don't want to be the one taken, because if captive, into captivity you go. That's not taken in the rapture, that's taken off into slavery. And it happened to at least 1,500,000 people in Israel during the years 66 to 73. Even before they were taken into captivity, though, Elohim promised that 70 years they would be released. And in fact, 70 years later, they were released by King Kyrus and let them go, and he kept his word, and he became the anointed one of Elohim. From the very fall of humankind, and frequently afterwards, Elohim promised to raise up seed from the race to redeem everybody. This man would be called Moshiach, or Son of Man. At the very time Elohim predicted he would come, Yahshua was born at the end of the 4th day of light in the 5th day, beginning of the 5th day of life, at the beginning of the 5th millennium. Yahshua HaNotzrim, born Messiah. Now, with such a record of classical fulfillments, if we don't believe them, then we ought to get away from the Bible altogether. We can't believe anything. There are hundreds of such things, though. How can we doubt that he'll keep his promise about this? The second topic I thought of is the importance of justice. Yes, I believe that most of Revelation up until 20 was fulfilled, and it's not a matter of just believing it. I can prove it. If somebody will give me enough time, it's not something you can say. Amos 2:43 tells you that. There's not one scripture that points to that, but history points to it. And so do the early believers. They point to it too. We can go from topic to topic, from seal to trumpet to bowl, from vision to vision in Revelation, and we can see all of that if we know Josephus. Josephus Greek version, and if we got a Slavonic version, that's even better, because they're all there. The importance of justice. Is this kingdom going to come just because Elohim promised it? Well, yes, but there's more than that. It's the just thing, the righteous thing, for him to do. Scripture proclaims that Elohim's not only just, but because of that justice, he is justifier of him that believes in Yeshua. If we dare to go to Romans 3:26 and accept that promise. Justice enters in because where there is a just sentence, there must be a just reason for the removal of that sentence.
Well, beloved, we have to take a little break now. We'll be back when it's finished, promise. Just as I promised, Jackson Snyder Present is back now to finish up message and fulfill promise.
When Adam and Chava, when they sinned by eating the forbidden fruit of Gan Eden, there was but one penalty, death. In the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die, and the wages of sin is death, according to Paul. He had to die. It was that simple. There could be no release unless somebody paid the penalty for him. But recognize he died of spirit immediately. It took decades, I think centuries, for him to die outside, along with the lesser humans there. When he was cast out into that, think of the surprise that this special man had when he had to go out and work in such a way. That's the way I felt when I had to go do telemarketing. Yes, talk about persecution. Man sinned, humankind must die. There's no release, and that's exactly what happened. There was a ransomed one. Yahshua died to remove the penalty, that is death, from all the descendants of Adam. Wherefore, as by one man, chata entered into the world, and death by chata. And so death passed upon all men, for all have sinned. For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead, a life for a life, a man ransom for a man. For as in Adam all die, even so in Messiah shall all be made alive. That's why they call him in Enoch and all the other apocalyptic literature the Ben Adam. The same thing he called himself. I figure about 150 times, Son of Man, Ben Adam. How many have died? Everyone I know of. I can't think of anybody that hasn't died or are going to die. Everyone, the good and the bad, the believer, the unbeliever, the Gentile, the Jew. Yahshua predicted the same, that there would be a resurrection of the dead. He said the hour is coming when, get ready, all who are in the tombs will hear his voice and come forth, those that have done good to the resurrection of life, and those who have done evil to the resurrection of judgment. Crisis again, a trial. And before that, what I didn't quote was about the ones that don't die at all. They are justified, they don't die, they're born again, they keep the Torah. That's what it's all about. They keep the commandments. They don't die. I'm not expecting to die. I had a near-death experience. Yeah, they will. They will. When I got near death, I felt great. I thought, let's go. I'm ready to go. Of course, when I came back to my mind again, I thought, oh, I was awful close there. Somebody might miss me. If I had a pet, maybe. Marcel, you'd miss me, I think. So how's that going to happen? That's what I want to talk about tomorrow. I think I got an idea. So then we have the third topic is sky and land. There are two resurrections here, actually three. The first resurrection is not a resurrection because a person doesn't die. But there's the resurrection of life that have done good and a resurrection of crisis for those who have done evil. These two resurrections are the fulfillment of another of Elohim's promises, the promise made to Adam, or to Avraham, over 4,000 years ago. Elohim said, by myself I have sworn that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven. Get that? The stars of the sky and the sand of the sea. Stars, sand. Your seed will possess the gate of his enemies, and in your seed will all the ethnoi again, all the tribes. Understand, when you read nations, put tribes in. There's no word nations in the Bible. All the tribes of the Eretz. It says earth. Don't read earth. Read land. Be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. Hallelujah. Notice those two parts of the seed of Avraham, the stars of the sky, the sands of the sea. The stars are found in the sky. The sand is found on the earth. This implies that Abraham's seed would have one part in the sky and one part in the earth. And when I say sky, I don't mean like rapture. I mean human being that is genetically in the phenotype that they would be able to transverse from 3 to 4 dimensions. What it takes is a piece from the Borg to put in your ear and eye. It's going to take a transformation, and it's not going to be much. It's going to be a little transformation. Go and listen to the 4th dimension that I did out there on jspresents.org. It explains it. Also, you might listen to the Omega Point theory of the resurrection. These theories are, even though they're beyond our imagining, they're not beyond our technology. And if we're that close, think what Elohim can do. Look, if we can raise a man from a man, right now you can take a cell off a human being and make another one. It's been done for a long time. Just we don't get told about it because we don't know whether it's ethical or not. If we can do that with the DNA structure, what can Elohim do? He's got the whole library. It says in Genesis 2 that he took and made Adam and he breathed the Ruach Chaim into Adam, and he became a living nefesh. All of a sudden, he had 4th dimensional abilities, which he lost when he died. Oh, it will. Coat of arms. My coat of arms has a picture of a sewing machine on it. All right, where was I? From the time of Abraham to the time of Joshua, he deals with the tribes of Israel, who are his people, and he promises, I'll walk among you and will be your Elohim, and you will be my people. And that's in the Torah. When the nation refused to accept Yahshua as Moshiach, he wept over the city. Why would he do that? Because he knew what was happening. He predicted it to happen in 40 years, and he came down and was seen by 2 million people to be there when it happened. In one generation, he gives them a generation to change. But in the meantime, he knows it won't happen. Oh, Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim kills the prophets and stones them which are sent unto thee. How often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. And as agent of judgment, Yahshua journeyed to Jerusalem in 70 A.D. But that desolation was not to be permanent. Barnabas says whatever they knock down, that is, the world knocks down, they'll have to build up again. The prophet Hosea prophesied, the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered, and it shall come to pass, that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living Elohim. Shrumkov, yes, except I've been trying to imitate him. My voice isn't low enough as his, but I can do pretty good now. I see him about every day.
Brother Snyder, I don't understand why you try to mock me by imitating my accent. I try out all these years I've been in America to talk like you, but I realize that my voice and my language is distinctive to me. Yes, it's my distinction. It is a gift to let people know that it is Rumkov that is talking, and try as you might to imitate this voice. There is no way in world you're going to get it, because it's mine, you see. Even the best imitators of voices always sound artificial in the end. So try as you might, you will not get this voice, so you might as well give up so Surumkov can have it.
It is said that imitation is the highest form of flattery, Brother Shulnkov. Their work as the seed of Abraham is given in Isaiah 2:24. And here it is. It will come to pass in the last days. Last days? Look at the text. The last day. What day is that? 7th day. That the mountain of Yahweh's house will be established in the top of the mountains. and will be exalted above the hills. All tribes will flow into it, and many people will go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountains of Yahweh, to the house of Elohim of Yaakov, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. And he will judge among the tribes, and shall rebuke many, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. So here we learn that the word will perpetually be going forth out of Jerusalem, and the Jerusalem where it'll go forth from, that will bring peace and equitable justice on the land, is the New Jerusalem. Because the old, I don't know if you've been there lately, but we shouldn't be calling it the holy city. We should call it the unholy city, full of idols of every kind, false and pagan religions. However, the spirit of Elohim has not abandoned. I was going to say the land, but I've got to say now the believer that goes to the land. Because you go there and you see the idols everywhere. But you find yourself walking in a kadosh corridor everywhere you go. You can see the idolatry, but on the other hand, what you feel stronger is a personal holiness. I can't explain that. A Catholic circus. Wow, that's good. What do you call it when something's good like that? Fairbunken or something like that? Finkelbunken? Tell me what that is down under. Finkelbunken. Fair dinkum. There you go. Abraham was to have another seed, which would be the stars of the sky. This seed is clearly identified by the apostate Paul. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made, and he saith not, and to seeds, as of many, but as one, and to thy seed, which is Messiah. Truth. This is fair dinkum, I think. And then he adds, if you be Messiahs, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Ye, he is talking about, plural, are the followers of Messiah. These with their master are peculiarly the seed of Abraham. I cannot even tell you who is father of Messiah today. I dare not say who isn't and who is. I don't know if my judgment is equitable or righteous. Paul says these are the partakers of the heavenly calling. They shall reign with him. They shall see him as he is, for they shall be like him. That comes from Yochanan. These are his bride, from Yochanan. Then these are the seed of Abraham that are the stars of the sky. Takes us to the fourth topic. So we've got 1,000 years to bless all nations. That's what Abraham's seed is to do. It's not man's millennium. They will not just bless a few families of the earth like they do today. They'll bless all the families of the earth. They'll bless wicked nations. They'll bless Sodom and Gomorrah. They'll bless pagan nations. They'll bless the nation of Israel. They'll bless atheistic nations. They'll bless Christian nations. They'll bless Muslim nations. They will bless all the nations of the earth. It is this universal scope of Elohim's plan that makes it so wonderful. In fact, haven't the American people and the people that have come out of the British Isles here and there, the Commonwealth, blessed and blessed and blessed and gotten blessed out some more? Absolutely. The Commonwealth is a prototype for the millennial kingdom. What greater proof do we need than the realization that Theos is agape? And what will the kingdom do? Why will it take an entire 1,000 years to accomplish it? Well, we've got to consider the work to be done. I want to talk some about that in a personal nature tomorrow. If you can come, I hope so. Fifth, present corrupt society has to go. Oh, I see this in my head, how it's going to go. I see a great vision of something that is going to be so satisfying to you, especially with this election nonsense coming up. I shouldn't call it nonsense, but wouldn't it be something if Yeshua and the elect crashed the Congress and just came in and said, you've done the best you could, but we're taking over now. We're taking over now. And yes, when I originally thought of this, Kennedy says, My family have been involved in this ever since we robbed the liquor train. He says, no, look, Yeshua says, I don't have a problem with that now because I have a job only you can do, Brother Kennedy. One job. Kennedy's chest comes out and he says, I knew I would be special in the millennium because I'm such a good Catholic. And Yeshua says, I have a position open for you, and it's in Dothan. Kennedy says, oh, the heavenly city of Dothan, just like in the Bible. Yes, Dothan, Alabama. We have an opening there for assistant deputy sheriff. You can do the job, Ted. It's the job for you. I don't want to go as far as to think that somebody's going to clean my toilet, but I know a couple that I'd like to say to them, no, don't worry, you really don't have to clean my toilet. I'd like to give mercy to the few people. Number 6, I'm skipping a little, just have a little more time. There has to be some uprooting. There has to be some deshuke here. In the days of those kings, Elohim of the sky will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, and that kingdom will not be left for another people. It will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, but it will itself endure forever. That's Daniel, but there's symbolic language in Revelation. The lightning. There's another meaning for the word astara in Greek, and that is enlightening. He comes lightning from the east to the west. Think of that not as the lightning in the sky that everybody's going to see. Think of it as a gradual enlightening, because that's what the word means. Earthquakes. I understand that to be symbolically revolutions. Hail. That's truth. These are all used by Yahweh to destroy the present evil order. I like Eisenman's idea better, that all of a sudden a gigantic ray of myriads of seraphim are exploding out of the seventh heaven down the vortex to the earth, and they just come out and take care and mop the whole place up. Peter. I would say that the books of Peter in the New Testament, we should call them the epistles of Peter Paul. But the day of Yahweh will come as a thief. This is an important concept. Whereas Yahshua comes as a thief. 5 witnesses to this, and many times we have to discuss this. Which means to me, if you would recognize Messiah, certainly not as the cause of the trouble stirring up the nations as he said he was going to do, in which the skies, that is the spiritual realm of Satan and his hosts, will pass away with a roar. He doesn't give up without a fight. Did you read the part in Josephus where the 2 million people there in and around Jerusalem and the Romans and everybody saw the battle in the sky with chariots and horses and soldiers and lights coming down, panoramic in the sky, just like Revelation 12 says? The advent of Messiah and the 144,000, a symbolic number, coming on the scene. Read Josephus. Back in the early 19th century, when they sold the book of Revelation, they published Josephus' Wars after the Revelation. So anybody could understand Revelation because they had Josephus. That was before Darby came along and destroyed real understanding. John Darby, who took the teachings of the Jesuit Carlos Lacunza and Protestantized them. And then we get the Schofield Bible 60 years later, where Schofield figured a way to make more money than Croesus. Publish a Bible with the Jesuit notes in it and call it the Schofield Bible. You got one? I don't know what you're going to do with it. I got one as a scholarship gift when I went into the seminary in 1992. I thought, what am I going to do with the Schofield Bible? But the guy that gave me the $150,000 I needed to go to school for a year, he thought that was important. It was a brown-covered Bible. When I got over to the church I was serving, I noticed something that matched. I wanted to put the Schofield Bible with something that matched its color, you see. And then I looked out the window, and I saw the brown burn barrel out there. I don't have to tell you the rest of the story. It's a money-making machine. 6th point, a foundation must be laid for a new order. I'm skipping a lot here. A foundation. Yahweh says to Israel, I will thoroughly purge away your dross and remove your impurities. I'll restore your judges as in the days of old, your counselors as at the beginning. Afterwards, you will be called a city of Zedekiah, righteousness, and the faithful city. That's in the same chapter of Isaiah where they're being rebuked for animal sacrifices. Going quickly. Seventh, evil must be restrained. This is what I'm looking forward to. The new government structure in place, attempting influences of evil must be restrained and destroyed. It was these influences that introduced sin in the first place. If left to exert their seducing lures, man would soon fall back into evil ways. But these forces will be removed before the world will realize full peace. I believe this. I believe it literally. And I saw Malach come down from the sky, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain. And he laid hold on the dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Hasatan, and bound him for 1,000 years and cast him into the bottomless pit, shut it up, set a seal upon it, that he would deceive the tribes, the ethnoi, no more. Yes, I'm looking at notes. Number 8, the dead must return to life. This is the most exciting concept of all. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, wait till you hear it. It's a wonderful idea. It comes from the idea of the assembly being organic in nature and part of the great temple of Messiah, or the temple of Elohim, with Messiah chief cornerstone. And it kind of trickles down to the concept in Peter Paul of living stones, all in one great edifice. And it trickles down a little bit to the shepherd of Hermas. If you've ever read that, the towers that are built there and the stones that are all around for building the towers that Malachim are building. And they're building towers, and Hermas asks, why are all these stones laying around? And the lady that is explaining the vision and her guide in the vision says, look at that one, it's cracked. It's unreliable. It's cracked. Water will get in. That one's around. It won't fit anywhere. This one's down by the river, trying to roll itself into the river. That won't do. It'll never get into the river, and it'll never get into the tower. What is the tower? Finally he finds out. The tower, in the churchy translation I have, I'm not redone the shepherd yet. Probably won't ever. It says, the tower is the church. And then Hermas says, if the tower is the church, why aren't you using all these cracked stones? A covenant. A covenant has to be put in place again. And the covenant needs a mediator. I do. I know who. Of course, I'm not claiming I'm right about anything, but I think the time has come. We've been holding these teachings back, Marcel, for 25 years, waiting for somebody that wanted to listen to them. And finally, this is another important point that I would be talking about more later, because you're going to have to imagine a lot of it. The risen dead need to be educated, rehabilitated. You're already in the millennium if you're going to go help your father. My time's up.